Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Happy New Year, everyone. We are back, and it is January 5th, first official Monday of 2026. I hope everybody had a blessed Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and definitely a happy and safe New Year. So, yes, I look a little bit different. I'm trying to, I guess, help out the internet a little bit on my end because I was, dragging it a little bit with backgrounds and different things like that. So I'm doing something, like I said, a little bit different. Instead of having a virtual background, I turned my television into that background and got a little bit more furniture kind of behind me. So hopefully this will help with the streaming process for the program. Definitely give me some feedback and let me know what you guys think. And with that, we're going to start with our kids' corner.
Magic formula for a good morning? Meet Solon, a 6-year-old rich kid who discovers that kindness, not money, makes the day shine bright. One morning, Solon opened his curtains. Outside, kids laughed while sharing one soccer ball. He thought, I have 10 balls, but I've never laughed that much. Solon grabbed 2 of his balls and ran outside. He shared them with the kids. Their cheers made him feel lighter than any golden toy ever did. Later, Solon shared snacks too. He realized sharing didn't make him lose, it made him gain new friends and new smiles that no luxury toy could ever bring. That afternoon, Solon cleaned his room without help. He said, if I can share outside, I can care inside too. His room looked brighter, just like his heart. His mom hugged him. Solon, the best morning formula is kindness, plus care, plus sharing. Solon smiled wide. That's the richest treasure I've ever found. Solon's lesson. A rich morning isn't about gold. It's about sharing, caring, and smiling. That's the real formula for making every day a good day.
Yes, sharing, caring, and smiling. Let's make sure that we're doing more of that going into 2026. And so, with that, we're going to start off with our morning prayer, just honoring God with our body. God, please protect our mind and guard our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect my ears. Help me to listen for your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs. God, help me to honor you with my body. God, please protect my feet and help me to walk in your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And that is something that I want to make sure that we do daily here on the show, just to set our hearts and minds right for the day. So I really do hope, again, everybody had a wonderful New Year and happy holiday. Yeah, a lot's going on. I mean, we got things going on with Maduro and Venezuela. We're going to cover those topics. But I wanted to start out with Daniel Carter and Zoe in Chicago. They brought up something very interesting that's happening with their tax dollars in Chicago.
So the new DEI is illegal alien, migrant youth and migrants, stuff like that. That's new DEI. Stephanie Coleman put this flyer up New Year's Eve, and for Kennedy King College, so City Colleges of Chicago, Youth Build, Rebuild and Rise, Youth Empowerment Through Construction. Program begins Monday, January 12, 2026, location Dawson Technical Institute. Now, these are the requirements for our kids.
Listen.
Must be between 16 and 24 years old at the time of enrollment. Must have left high school before graduation or have dropped out and then re-enrolled. Now, this is the qualifying criteria. Must meet at least one. Member of a low-income family, homeless youth, youth in foster care, youth with a disability, child of an incarcerated or formerly incarcerated parent, migrant youth. The program is 100% tuition free, earn while you learn stipend program, PPE provided, 2-month paid internship, CTA UPass, GED prep, advanced placement into Mid-America Carpenters Union. Credentials offered: OSHA cards, ATSSA flaggers, construction carpentry basic certificate.
So you all see all the requirements you needed to be an American citizen, a Chicago citizen. But all you needed to do was be a migrant youth to get all these benefits. So we have to be shot, dead, lose a leg, things like that in order to
foster care, a foster child, be abandoned. Basically, everything that is a requirement to get this, you have to have abandonment issues. Somebody has to abandon you. Your father abandoned you, your mother abandoned you, your grandparents abandoned you. See, it has to be something like that's your family.
To qualify for these benefits.
Like that's how they sell you. That's how they manipulate our kids. That's how they groom them to vote this way and things like this. They don't want you to rely on your family. They don't want you to rely on your parents and stuff like that. Like, they don't care about family. They don't care. It's just one big cult.
And all you have to do for that is just be a migrant youth, an illegal alien. So those benefits should just be for American citizens, Chicago citizens. That's it. That should be the.
So they can be with their family.
They can be with their family.
They came over here with their family. They can enroll.
They can enroll because they're migrant. Just say migrant youth.
But if you're a low income family, then you're required.
So what about just our kids who just say, hey,
a single parent?
Yeah, a single parent. Just say, they want those opportunities. They want those jobs.
Person don't want to go to college.
Yes,
but that's something that they were interested in doing.
But you don't qualify if you don't have all those. If you're not a trauma bonding with these people, but you can. But when it comes down, all your requirements is just that you're an illegal alien. And if you look at the city colleges, we pay that on our property tax bill. I don't know if you noticed that, but look on your property tax bill. That line that says city colleges, we are paying for that. So requirements should not be, we should not be paying for illegal aliens to be over.
Governor J.B. Fritzer
take over our
HB 460 passed by the Illinois Democrats and signed into law by Governor J.B. Pritzker. It expands access to grants, scholarships, and other aid for all Illinois residents, regardless of immigration status.
Illegal aliens.
So we're paying for illegal aliens
to take over.
At deposit. It is insane, the amount of taxes that they are being charged in Chicago. First of all, that. And then on top of that, you're still going to push this migrant agenda regardless. See, that's where it's like, okay, all right, Chicago, you guys have to vote these people out of here. Someone voted them in to office and someone needs to vote them out. When he's up for re-election, you need to put somebody else in there that's actually going to be for the people of the state of Illinois. Because they truly have shown you they do not care. They do not care about American citizens, period. Because to say, regardless of immigration status, you're going to be eligible for this money, it's insane. Truly insane.
for our job
take over
market.
really just the country.
Yeah, and so we are paying for them to take over the trades because we know construction, and they're going to be union and everything. And this is what these jobs can go for our kids. These jobs can go for American kids. If we're being paid for in tax in our property taxes, then why don't those jobs go to our kids? But yet we are paying for illegal aliens to be able to take over those jobs, because I guarantee you 50 to 60 to 70% of those people that's going to enroll in this program are going to be illegal aliens. And they're going to, so we're teaching them how to take over our job market and compete with our kids when it come down to these jobs.
And with the help of our no good politicians, Stephanie Coleman posted that.
Yeah, why would you post
she's
that?
16 Ward.
Why
But that's
would you do
because
that?
Inglewood is starting to look like little village.
Yeah. When we're talking about affordability, this is what the Democrats are talking about, affordability crisis or problem. But yet you're steady giving our jobs to illegal aliens. We wouldn't have affordability crisis if Americans were able to take of those jobs that illegal aliens are occupying. But we're steady teaching them trades and allowing them to get small business and getting business loans to take over the industry from American citizens. That's what you see now. That's where the affordability problem is coming from. So this is a requirement. You saw all the requirements for American citizens, but one requirement for an illegal alien is you just have to be a migrant, an illegal alien. That's all. That's it. And you can get all the benefits that our American kids can't even get those benefits, because you got to go through all of this other trauma in order just to be able to get a job in construction. That don't make any sense, and this is what our tax dollars are paying for. Illegal aliens to teach them to take over our job market. That's it. So skip the American dream. We are just teaching illegals to take over that American dream and give it to them. What does that mean your kids' future? They don't have a future.
They want our kids to be liberal bums who protest about nothing.
Yeah.
They're rebels without a cause.
So this is what's going on, guys. We have to bring this to your attention because, like I said, when I looked at my tax bill, I'm paying for this, and it went up, and I'm pissed.
Stop paying taxes.
Stop paying taxes. They already, Supreme Court already deemed it unconstitutional. So to take our property through property taxes, so, hey guys, all hands on deck. What you all gonna do? Are we just gonna keep sitting down, taking this, giving our resources to illegal aliens? We saw what happened in Minnesota. Are we just gonna keep funding their American dream while taking ours away? No. All hands on deck. Let's do what you. Hey, what we doing here? Second quarter. Listen, register to vote as a Republican or independent. Please, we want you to register as a
independently aligned.
Yeah, as a Republican.
Independently aligned with Chicago Plus Red.
Yeah.
Independently aligned with Chicago Plus Red.
The conservative group.
Yes, please.
Love y'all.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that they brought that up because, even when I was living in California, I noticed that there were a lot more programs available for people regardless of their immigration status. So this isn't something new that's being done. I think it's just a lot more noticeable now because of everything that's happening. But I'm glad they're bringing attention to it because it's true. That's a program. And the interesting part about it is a lot of that funding for a program like that is actually in the big beautiful bill that they're exploiting and taking advantage of at the state level, because there is grant money for that. There are programs available for that specific training in construction. It's in the big beautiful bill. Americans are not lazy. Americans aren't given the opportunity. There are several videos out there that you can look online where there are actual temp agencies that are refusing to allow American citizens to even register to get those jobs. And that's documented. And that's happening. And it needs to stop. It's horrible. Sorry, I've got to remove somebody from my room. But yeah, it's horrible what's happening. And it shouldn't be. It truly, truly shouldn't be. And I've actually shared links to these opportunities on my show, on I want to say like November, December last year, where people can go and register and sign up for free trades, free training. It's been going on for months, but it's just not being well advertised in these states. And now you've got a program and it's being offered to people that are here illegally. It shouldn't be happening. It needs to stop. So, with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to get into some censorship that is going on that I want to make sure you guys are aware of. So, thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we will see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered. And for the next 20 days, it will be from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm doing a little bit of, how should I say, uh, volunteering at my church. I'm serving, and we are having what's called 21 days of prayer. And so I will make sure to put that link when I repost from this broadcast, so you guys can join us in the mornings. It starts at 6:30 a.m. and it goes till about 7 o'clock. That's why I'm starting at 7:30 in the morning to make sure that I'm back here on time and starting the broadcast. So with that, we're going to look at censorship. Now, some of these videos are a little bit old. Some are just from over this past weekend. The first video I wanted to play, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to play most of it. It is about censorship that's going on with Israel. Now, you would think, well, what does that have to do with us? Well, they are trying to, in my opinion, insert themselves here in America to try to dictate how we have our freedom of speech. And that's the thing. It's like other countries don't have the constitution that we have. And I think a lot of times we do take advantage of our constitution. We did. Now, yes, there was somebody that was in my room and on this live, and I banned them from the room because, this year, new year, you can be other places. And if you want to, be disparaging, you can be disparaging there. But I want to keep things positive over here. We can disagree, but I don't want to be disparaging. I definitely want to keep it positive. So I'm going to be a lot more particular about who I allow to comment, who I have in this room, on this stream. There's just going to be some boundaries going on. So with that, let's check out the video.
here, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it. And quickly before it's too late. We need to control the platforms and take control over what they are saying. So AI is going to revolutionize cyber warfare, is revolutionizing cyber warfare from critical infrastructure to the fabric of society and politics, and undermining it, giving unfair advantage to authoritarian governments against democratic countries. First Amendment type of...
That's already happening?
That's already happening. You're seeing the polarization in countries that allow for the First Amendment and protect it, which is great. And I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it, and quickly before it's too late. I mean that we need to control the platforms, all the social platforms. We need to stack rank the authenticity of every person that expresses themselves online and take control over what they are saying based on that ranking.
The government.
The government should
control the social media.
Yeah, should do that. And we need to educate people against lies, and government need to develop cyber defense programs that are as sophisticated as the cyber attack. Today it's a 1 to 100 ratio. You need to use technology in order to stabilize the political system. So this is an urgent need by the government to do that. And until then, enterprises are buying by themselves more and more cybersecurity solutions, but they can't afford all these solutions by themselves. So they are looking for ways to deliver a more efficient consumption. That drives really the next generation of companies such as Wiz, CrowdStrike, Kato networks on the network that are platforms and are able to deliver this extended need for security in an affordable way for enterprises.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to me very, very carefully. I know most of you are already aware of this, but we need to really put this on the front burner. All over the world, at the nation-state level, at the UN level, at the WEF level, at the BlackRock corporate ESG governance level, internet IDs are being rolled in that are already standardized to a UN standardized system in the last decade developed by Bill Gates, who heads up the working group with the Communist Chinese. You can look that up. Look up Bill Gates and the UN developing the World ID. They say, the head of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the head of the UN, they say, this will bring in the cashless society. This will track everything you do. We'll enforce the carbon taxes through it. If you don't say and do what we want, we will shut down your ability to travel, to have a bank account, to have a car. China's had this in for basically 10 years. And that's the model that is being implemented right here in the West. And they've got the professors and the left and the universities and the Democrats wanting censorship. You've seen that. We have the incredible censorship of the EU and of the UK, suing Elon Musk and other American companies, trying to make them censor us, and Brazil coming after X and others. And you have Keir Starmer working with the EU to try to censor Americans, and Trump has been putting basically sanctions on them, killing huge multi-billion-dollar deals to put pressure on them. So that's a good sign. But then you have Netanyahu a few months ago in several speeches. We played him here many times. But he's given a new speech, repeated it again a few days ago, so we'll play that one in a moment, saying we've been in a 7-front war with the Muslims and with Iran mainly, and now we've got an 8th front, that is America and other Western nations criticizing Israel, and we're at war, and we're going to change the laws and regulations to stop people disagreeing with us. And the policies they've come up with, and there's articles about it today, include saying, criticizing the Zionist state. Well, whether that's right or wrong, from your perspective, you have a right to do that. But the bigger issue is, this is Israel openly trying to come over here and openly trying to pass laws and regulations to censor the American people. I mean, it's just over the top. Just like when Keir Starmer does it, or Ursula von der Leyen. We expose that. They've all got different excuses and all got different reasons for why they're doing it. And they're passing regulations in Australia and in Canada and in the UK. If you criticize Islam, 3 years in prison. So all these different groups want censorship. The Muslim Brotherhood is financing censorship. Israel's financing censorship from the right-wing Likudniks. They've got all their minions in Congress. You've got the Rothschild arm censoring and trying to get censorship of conservatives. I mean, it's bad. And now we have Mr. Kramer, Shlomo Kramer, who's the former head of Israel's NSA, the 8,200 group, 8,200, saying it's time to limit the First Amendment, close quote. We need to control all the social platforms and take control of what they're saying. And I posted this and I said, see, he's joined Netanyahu on pushing the eighth front of the war. And I saw the pro-Israel people go, Alex, Netanyahu doesn't support this. And then I just posted the video of Netanyahu giving the order for this. And this guy is hooked into dozens of major companies he set up or is part of that deal with banking and identity and all of it. And that stuff can be used to protect your identity, can also be used to shut you down in a social credit score. And that's what he's saying. He's saying to protect you from foreign governments and AI, we've got to do this. And I did a really good breakdown this morning that I shot in my car. I think I nailed it there. Guys, download that. I'm going to air that in a few minutes, too. It's short, like 5 minutes long. I mean, I nailed it then. Why repeat it? So we'll play that in a moment. But this is outrageous. If he was proposing something reasonable, but saying we're going to have a foreign lobby manipulate Americans, I'd be against it. But this is tyrannical. There it is. The foreign government of Israel has publicly declared war on the American people's right to free speech. And that's what it is. Israel's leadership has now joined forces with the tyrannical European Union, UK, and others to overturn the First Amendment, effectively establishing an AI digital dictatorship. And his argument is, what I've told you is the argument of big tech here. Well, China's dictatorial. They can run a better AI takeover than us, so their AI is going to win if we don't have censorship. But he's saying we've got to take your rights because individuals and foreign governments, corporations can do all this bad stuff with AI, so you've got to let us restrict your speech and decide who can talk and who can't. I mean, it is so evil. And he does it in his kind of whispering NPR version of Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. I was like, who does his voice remind me of? It's like an NPR version of if Arnold Schwarzenegger was, yes, we do it for you. You don't need that speech anymore. And you have to understand, folks, they put you in jail for 3 years if an Afghan rapes you and you criticize him as an Afghan, he gets no jail time. He gets parole, you get jail time. I mean, it's the same thing all over the Western world. So all of this that you think is to censor Muslims or censor whatever, or the KKK, no, it's for you. And so we have the left and the big think tanks and the different globalist parties and the Mondamis of the world allied in reality with the EU, the UK, and Israel coming in, lobbying, trying to get Americans censored. It's outrageous. And remember, this comes to you from the same globalist corporate combine blob that created COVID, released COVID, rolled out poison shots, censored everybody, did the psychological warfare. The same ones that covered up the Hunter Biden laptop and stole the 2020 election, all of that. So they've got all their different reasons for it. But I tell you, it gives me an intellectual headache to be here defending the First Amendment and free speech. And no matter who attacks it, I go after them. And then I get to have the idiots in the comments saying, oh, you're just anti-Semitic because you don't want Israel to defend itself. Israel defends itself by surveilling us and censoring us and controlling us. That's outrageous. And then I get to have all the idiots that only obsess on Jews going, oh, Jones, I thought you worked for them. What are you doing criticizing this? I always criticize Israel and it does bad stuff. I do what's right. I go and I look at something and whatever is the common sense right thing to do is what I do. It's like Candace Owens. She says there's this Fort Huachuca plan to kill Kurt. All these people have alibis. Now she says, oh, it's not about a meeting to kill him. Yeah, that's what you said. And then her star witness is a complete famous con artist who he caught in total lies. And so I say, this is not true. Then they go, oh, you're not saying there was any help killing Kirk. You're not saying there should be an investigation. Yes, I am. All I do is what is moral. I don't sit around and ask, will this be popular? I don't sit around and ask.
Okay, hold on. I will post the link to the rest of that segment for Alex Jones, but I wanted to get to the point of what he was saying. We've got now Israel trying to dictate how the First Amendment should go. Like a lot of countries don't like us. Excuse me. And it's funny to me because they use our First Amendment against us. Because in one breath, they'll be like, your people can't tell us what to do. But then they want to tell us what to do. It's weird. Sorry, I'm one of those people that actually got sick over the weekend. And for some reason, I've just been dealing with this little bit of phlegm in my body that I'm tired of. And Happy New Year to you, Patty Cakes. Thank you so much for joining us. And like I said earlier, I did remove somebody from the room because what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to have disruptiveness. And it's one thing we can disagree on different things, but let's not be disruptive. So maybe I'll bring that person back on and we'll be able to start over and respectfully disagree. You know, and here's the thing with the First Amendment, you have every right to say what you want to say, when you want to say it. But at a certain juncture, if I don't feel it's a productive conversation, I'm allowed to leave the conversation. And that's what I'm going to allow myself this year. Allow myself to leave conversations because not everything is beneficial, right? It's allowable, but not everything is beneficial. And so I want to stay more on the beneficial route. And with that, I want to get into the next video about censorship. Now, this is from Melanie King. I'm not going to play her entire video, just like Alex, but I wanted to play enough of it. And so you can kind of get where he was coming from. Now, he was coming from where it was more so Israel. This is on the side of our own federal government coming after us with censorship. And so for Melanie, this was about 2 weeks ago that she posted this video.
Just updated its privacy policy stating it will adhere to EU and UK demands to remove content. It also warns users you are responsible for the content you post or create. Guys, I told you there has been a crackdown on freedom of speech around the world. You're seeing an escalation of it in the UK. People are getting jailed by the thousands. In the EU, Canada, I've told you they're banning sections of the Bible there because it's now considered hate speech. When I told you that they are tracking you, and you may say, well, this is just the EU and UK. There are 20 bills. Congress is supposed to break today. They normally break on Friday, but they're breaking today. Three Eye Atlas is on Friday, tomorrow. But they're breaking today, and they're supposed to vote on this. They're supposed to vote on this. So on 20 bills that essentially end freedom of speech. If you don't know, one of the main ones are the Kids Online Safety Act. They are using the safety of children in order to censor speech. But now with this policy, let me see, there is something else about it. Let me pull it up. We'll just go through a couple of things, right? So it says we've updated our terms to explain that in some places, for example, the EU and UK, we may need to remove not only illegal content, but also content considered harmful or unsafe under local laws. But see, you got to understand what local laws are. It's not like someone, threatening to hurt someone or whatever. You can use the wrong pronoun now. There's a teacher who just got a life sentence in the UK because he misgendered his student who was transitioning and refused to take it back. I'm not kidding you. I brought you that story. But the things are happening here in the US. Guys, what if I tell you, you have to not only look in the past, you look at the present and what they're talking about the future, but also globally. Because we are seeing people didn't think digital ID will be here. Well, now they're doing the pilot program in Alaska. Okay. And we rolling out digital ID at the same time, not as mandatory like the UK, because they know what that would lead to, but that's how they slow drip us here in the US. The same thing in Australia. You know how they're ramming in digital ID? Well, they're banning anyone under 16 essentially off the internet. First, it was just social media that went into effect, but now on the 27th, it's going to be the internet essentially, meaning there will be in order to actually freely be on the internet, search things on Google, you have to prove that you are over the age of 16. So sometimes, and we're doing that here. We're couching things as protecting children, but the reality is, how do you prove that you're over 16? Well, then you have to submit a digital ID. So they're doing it in various ways, guys. They can do it through immigration. They will do it in any way they can because this is the plan. This is the end. This is where they want to lead to globally. And I'm telling you that now. All right. So
Now, with that, and I just thought about this, it's interesting because a lot of our information is already out there. How many data breaches do we go through, like, over the years, right? Where companies will say, oops, we have a data breach, and a lot of information was released, and then you're getting more emails, or your information is being sold. So I find it fascinating because I'm like, if our information is already out there, why are we going through biometrics? Why do we need a digital ID? You have our information. Oh, because we have to sign up for it, and we have to give our free will over to it. So see how that works? Because they can't, even again, even though they have our information as American citizens, even if you're here illegally in the United States, they still have your information if you're on the internet, right? But for the digital ID to work, you have to sign up for it. You actually have to use your free will to sign over to it. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind.
don't just dismiss it because it's somewhere else. That is a warning. That's God's warning to you. That's God's trying to wake you up so you can see what is coming down the pipeline for you. But then it also says under content responsibilities and restrictions, we've updated our terms to better reflect that you are responsible for the content you post and create, including prompts and outputs. And this says here, we may collect and share information to estimate or verify your age when legally required. Well, to now these countries that this has been enacted in, digital ID specifically, they are having all the different social media platforms are before they're able to log in, they have to prove their ID by scanning their face. Some have to submit ID. But this is as digital ID is rolling out soon. The mandate will be you have to have the digital ID, which will link to your banking. You won't be able to buy or sell. You won't be able to get insurance. You won't be able to pay taxes. You won't be able to enroll your kids in school. You won't be able to work because then employers will be required to have it in order for them to hire you because they'll have government regulations on them. So you see how it's all stacking up? They call it Skynet in China. They already have this. And then also that will be linking to your digital your vaccine passport. But I brought you that information. It'll be on your phone at first, but now Bill Gates has developed the technology where they can put quantum dots under the skin that will be your passport, will be your vaccine passport, as well as a QR code so that you cannot enter, buy, sell, or do anything if you are not vaccinated. They have talked about planning this next pandemic. I've played you those clips. That is the plan. Even Anthony Fauci, who nothing has happened to him, who he said the same thing, right? Have you noticed nothing happens to people? Nothing. No one's arrested. There may be talk of indictments. Those are undone. No one goes to jail. No one's held accountable. And that is what it's supposed to be. There's a left wing and a right wing, two wings of the same bird. All right. So, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else with this in particular. And then I want to show you what's happening here in the US. People are really upset with, a lot of people are actually not aware of what's happening in Congress right now, which is very bizarre. It's not bizarre because they design it that way, because they don't want us to pay attention. Worse than age verification is the idea of repeating Section 230. I think it's repealing, not repeating is what's supposed to say. Section 230 is the law that created the internet. It protects you as a user and prevents censorship. If they repeal Section 230, the internet could literally disappear overnight. I wish I was being hyperbolic. We're going to play this in a second, but I want to show you this first. Now, again, this is a website called Bad Internet Bills. It is very left wing. This should not be left or right. This is where we can come together. So understand some of the language is going to be like, oh, Trump is doing this. Or this is bipartisan. They're all doing it. Okay. So it says threats by Trump in Congress to sunset Section 230 would end online free expression as we know it. Section 230 is a legal compromise that protects platforms from lawsuits over third-party content while still allowing them to engage in content moderation. Without it, platforms will be forced to choose between acting as publishers, allowed to pick and choose what they host, but legally liable for whatever they publish, and anything goes platforms unable to engage in even basic spam mitigating content moderation. Regular people would be unable to post on publisher curated websites and would have their voices drowned out by scams and hate speech on unmoderated platforms. But no, guys, it won't just be like hate speech. And guys, this, even in the way that they frame it, it essentially means, and it goes into the terms and service that are updated on X and that we're going to see rolling out. There are 20 bills right now, okay, that when I tell you that it's like, look at this, like I ran through this the other day. Maybe we have to do a live stream and go deep. This is the other really big one. Like they are making sure that no matter which way you look, they are going to censor you. They are going to censor you. This is the plan. And no one's talking about it. No one's talking about it. You have to really look for this information. And I misspoke earlier. I said that they were voting this week. They're not voting this week. They are voting on some things, but January, when they come back, that's when all of this will be ramped up and it's going to slip through quietly. These are just some of the things that they're slipping in to completely shut down freedom of speech. Now let's play what I was showing you earlier.
Senator Hawley expressed that many of us feel about the bills that have come through the committee and the work that we've done. We know that one bill that did pass that you noted, Ms. Coffrin, thank you, was the Take It Down Act that I authored with Senator Cruz, signed into law by President Trump. And as you know, that criminalizes the distribution of and threats to distribute non-consensual intimate images, whether they are AI created or real. And I would also add
Let me just say again, understand when they say that's something to protect you, so that people can't do intimate images of you or AI images of you. Yeah, that could be one part of it, but understand that is always the Trojan horse, right? That is the Trojan horse, protecting kids, protecting you from spyware, protecting from domestic threats, terrorism, protecting. It's always about protecting you, but
Yes, so in essence, they are coming up with solutions that are worse than the problems they are trying to solve. And that's the downfall, I think, in summary, with some of this legislation that Melanie's bringing forth or talking about.
they really are protecting us. And this goes past most people. Most people are not even looking. Do you understand? Do you understand what's about to happen? This is all going to just crack down overnight, and people are going to say, where did this come from? I wasn't warned, because they want us all distracted with everything else, and they know people are not going to comb through this. If you want that website, it's Bad Internet Bills. Bad Internet Bills. I don't think it's going to change anything. This is going to come whether we want it or not. But understand, if you want to sign up, if you want to call your local representative, that is your right to do. I know with the number of bills that they're trying to pass, all, if not all, some, or the most important ones will. And our phone calls, like voting, really doesn't matter. They're not really threatened by that. Just look at how our government is moving right now. They don't care what we want. They're going to do what they want to do for their agenda. And it is what it is.
To echo some of my colleagues, particularly Senator Graham, that it's long past time to repeal Section 230. At the beginning of his efforts on that front, I had thought, well, no, maybe we can put in these rules in place and the tech companies will work with us. And that just hasn't happened. The opposite has happened. And as we approach this 30-year anniversary, maybe it's time to do a major assessment, which takes for any parent about 1 minute, to realize the harm that has been caused by all of this. I'd start with you, Ms. Woods. Thank you for your moving testimony. Can you talk about why even the threat of non-consensual distribution of explicit images can be tragic, and why it's so vital that the law covers threats, as the Take It Down Act does, as well as reality?
So
We probably don't even need to play everything she's saying, but let me show you what the Take It Down Act is. Because remember, guys, I'm talking about repealing Section 230, the Kids Online Safety Act, and now this one. Well, butter my biscuit, as my grandma would say, because I was wondering why on the Bad Internet Bills, they had the Take It Down Act on there, but there was no information about it. Well, because it was already passed in May, and it was signed into law in May 2025, is a U.S. federal law criminalizing the sharing of non-consensual intimate imagery, including AI-generated deepfakes, and requiring platforms to remove such content within 48 hours, empowering victims and establishing federal enforcement through the FTC to combat online abuse and sexual exploitation. This is actually a good thing. But notice, remember, what did I say? They want things to look good. So Amy Klobuchar is connecting repealing Section 230, getting someone to testify about the Take It Down Act as though that's all part of it. So something that was good, that is celebrated, that is necessary, right? This is how they just throw confusion. Oh, let's have someone testify about the Take It Down Act as though this is the same thing as repealing Section 230. Oh, these people are good. Oh, they are good. Oh my goodness. This is why it just hit me, guys, in real time. You're seeing it because I'm like, why doesn't this website, let me show you. So again, this is Say No to Bad Internet Bills. They're working in conjunction, but look, see, they list a lot of them. There's not all of them, but a lot of them. I go to Take It Down. It doesn't do anything. And I'm trying to figure out why. Why is it not doing anything? Well, because it already happened. So there's no point, but this is how they do it. Because this is what they want now. Online ID checks laws combine surveillance and censorship. These laws, adopted by 19 states, require residents to provide sensitive information such as driver's license or face scans simply to access websites and apps. ID check systems are vulnerable. Guys, this is the digital ID system to access the internet, to be on social media. I don't know which way to warn people, but this is all happening. At the same time, that is wild. I'm sorry. It's just blowing my mind seeing how something that people would want, but then they now to repeal all of the internet to make it so that you essentially you can't have really public opinion online. See, and this is what they do it so you're not going to be criminalized for it, but they can force companies that you have freedom of speech or that you speak out on to remove you or for there to be penalties against you or they will be threatened with censorship. See, they can't censor you just walking outside and saying something yet or talking to friends. That'll be coming. But this isn't impeding on your freedom of speech because it's about safety and the internet and all. They use the private companies in order to do it so that you got freedom of speech, but you have no reach.
Mhm.
Oh, they're good. Very good, guys. I just wanted to bring you
Mhm.
that quick update. I will be back. I have a lot more. I want to talk about Three Eye Atlas. And I want to be clear about Three Eye Atlas. I do not think it's the end of the world. I don't even think it will come past the firmament. Now it says in the end times that essentially the skies will roll back like a scroll, meaning I believe the firmament will, and then that's when things will be coming in and hitting Earth. I don't think that's it. Personally, I'm settling in that it is a sign and wonder that we will see. They said that when Jesus is returning, the hour of his return is.
Okay, that's a little bit of a separate conversation that she's having. But for the most part, I wanted to bring you guys that because it is very relevant, right? Our free speech, for some reason, I don't know what it is. About foreign entities and the United States and them constantly going, hey, we got to mess and poke around the United States because they've got freedom of speech and we have everybody else under control and we need to be able to control everything and everyone. It's really horrible what they're doing. And so what I did was I had Grok go through because I was like, what are these, nearly 20 bills? And it's nearly 20 because one of them passed, right? And that was the one that she was talking about, the Take It Down Act. But basically, the bills focus on online safety for minors, but are framed in the video as tools for broader censorship, tying into things like digital ID, verification, platform liability, and restrictions of free speech. So, the Kids Online Safety Act, or KOSA, described as using child protection as a pretext for censoring speech. There's also the efforts to repeal Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, right? And I think that's another reason why they were trying in the Take It Down Act with Section 230, right? Because it's about decency. Just saying, which protects platforms from liability for user content and is seen as essential for online free expression. A separate bipartisan Senate bill, the Sunset Section 230 Act, was introduced in December of 25. Now, the Take It Down Act, noted as already passed in May 2025, which criminalizes non consensual intimate imagery, including AI generated, and requires platforms to remove it within 48 hours. It's interesting that a lot of this stuff is coming up like way after the Kim Kardashian era, right? Where there was a tape leaked of her being intimate with somebody else. She never didn't deny it. It didn't destroy her. But it's interesting how a lot of this stuff is coming up. Her name hasn't come up. I don't know if anybody has heard her, be mentioned in this. Now, the state level online ID check laws that are in 19 states right now requiring sensitive information like driver's licenses or face scans for website access, potentially linking to federal ID, digital ID efforts. And I think that's something that's going to be small rollouts because even when I've gone on cruises, they want me to take a picture of my face, right? To match what my profile will be on the ship. I'm just using that as an example. So they want more than just my passport. They physically want to see a picture of me. Now, critics, including campaigns like Bad Internet Bills, and that's this website here. This is the website that Melanie was showing. It has a few of the different bills that are being proposed as legislation and could actually be enacted. So this is a repeal of Section 230, online ID checks, COSA, the Screen Act. Take it down. If you click on it, nothing happens because it's already done. Earn it. Cooper Davis, age gating bills, and stop CSAM. Right. So that's another one. And you can go through this website and it just gives like a brief overtake, and you can sign a petition, right? That's attached to it. So the Screen Act would instate nationwide age verification requirements for websites that lawmakers deem harmful to minors. But far from promoting safety, it would force websites to contract with shady third party verification companies to collect and store incredibly sensitive identifying info, like your driver's licenses and passports, in insecure databases with backing from far right politicians and conservative anti porn groups. Okay. It's clear that this bill is really intended to what this bill is really intended to do: censor our access to the internet while collecting our data in droves. Yeah, and that's another thing, data collection. Whenever you go on the internet, it's like, oh, can we get your email? Can we get your um, date of birth? Can we get this? Can we get that? And it's like, what are you going to use this for? It's like, so we have to be a lot more careful of who we engage on the internet, why we're engaging, what we're doing, because things like that are out here. So, oops, not that one. Here we go. I wanted to get back to the bills. I know I've got a couple of things I'm gonna be going over this morning. So, pretty much, we checked out bad internet bills, and I'll make sure to link this in the repost. So, here are some of the 19 bills from the House that are being proposed. So, you've got the Children and Teens Online Privacy Protection Act, and its purpose is to protect the online privacy of children and teens. Now, what I find very fascinating is like, okay, the internet's been going strong for, I would say close to what, 20 years now or more? Maybe more than 20 years, 25, almost 30 years. And it's pretty much been going strong. Now you're concerned? Now there's an issue? Now you want to put all these regulations in place? A long time ago people were saying we needed like a constitutional bill of rights or something like that, like a bill of rights for the internet, so that there could be one governing document as opposed to different countries or even different states here in the United States dictating how people can be on the internet. It's just because it's still the wild, wild west. But in my opinion, these bills that they're doing, it's a piecemeal. Because why do you need these bills when we've got freedom of speech, when we do already have constitutional protections? But you're putting all these bills in place. To me, it just seems it's very shady. Very shady. You've got the Kids Online Safety Act. It enhances online safety measures for kids. Reset Act resets online safety standards. What are the standards? How are you going to reset something and there's no standards at all? It's like stuff like that that's really weird. Sammy Law addresses specific online safety concerns for minors. And I'm reading all these, I'm like, this is a lot of overlap. What are you doing? What are you really trying to accomplish, right? The App Store Accountability Act holds app stores accountable for content accessibility and safety. Interesting. So you're going to be able to censor apps in the App Store. So what if they say, okay, we don't like the content that this app has? They can just kick you off. And they can just say, you know what, for safety concerns, we're not going to have you on here, even if your app doesn't do anything harmful. Yeah, it's very arbitrary. Shielding children's retains from egregious exposure on the net. That's the Screen Act. Okay. Protects children from harmful visual content online. You're doing it now? Why weren't you guys doing this decades ago? Like when the internet dropped, but now you got to control it. It's very disingenuous to me. Safety Social Media Act ensures safer social media environments. That'll never be. You're not talking about Roblox. Is this going to affect Roblox? Bueller, anyone? But you're not talking about that on Congress, on the Hill. That's the part. Algorithmic Choice and Transparency Act increases transparency and user choice in algorithmic systems. No Fentanyl on Social Media Act prevents the sale or promotion of fentanyl on social media. What? That's going on? Okay. Interesting. Promoting a Safe Internet for Minors Act promotes a safer internet for minors. Again, a lot of overlap. So are they just doing these mass bills because they don't, maybe 5 of them will get passed or 1 or 2 of them? But it seems like a lot of overlap. Safeguarding Adolescents from Exploitative Bots Act protects adolescents from exploitative bots. That should, okay, if you're going to do that for minors, like why aren't you doing that for everybody? Why isn't everybody protected from bots? Oh, but it's okay to mess around with adults, especially when it comes to skewing how they view things, right? But we have to protect the children. But what if you were called a bot and you're not? I mean, it's a slippery slope. Kids Internet Safety Partnership Act establishes partnerships for kids' internet safety. AI Warnings and Resources for Education Act provides AI related warnings and educational resources. Safeguarding of adolescents from malicious interactions on network games. Safeguards adolescents from malicious interactions in online games. Why weren't you doing this years ago? Again, years ago. Assessing Safety Tools for Parents and Minors Act evaluates safety tools for parents and minors. Stop Profiling Youth Kids Act prevents profiling of youth online. Oh, so you're going to actually stop the pedophiles? Is that what this is about now? Safe Messaging for Kids Act ensures safe messaging platforms for children. Don't Sell Kids Data Act of 2025 prohibits the sale of children's data. Okay, is that going to also protect against breaches that happen? Are these companies going to be held responsible? Because there's nothing that happens to these companies. In my opinion, whenever they have these quote unquote breaches, they should have to pay the individuals who've been breached at least 100,000 minimum. See, when there's a price tag that comes with your dereliction of duty and behavior for these companies, it would stop happening. But there's no consequences for them. They don't care. They don't have to sell the kids data. Okay, they won't sell it, but what happens with the breach? Who's responsible for that? No one? Yeah. Parents Over Platforms Act prioritizes parental control over online platforms. Okay. They should have that control anyway in their homes. Like a lot of this stuff, like I said, it's weird, it's overlap, it's very interesting. And so I did put through the other video for Alex Jones because I wanted to know, is it similar? Is it not? And it was like, no, that video is not similar. They've got a separate legislation that exists with anti-Semitism online, which codifies the IHRA definition and has been criticized for potentially chilling criticism of Israel or the Stop Hate Act targeting terrorist content on platforms. So, and I said, will any of these bills lead to a digital ID? Because as you notice in both the video for Melanie King and for Alex Jones, they both talked about digital IDs in different ways. So it says none of the 19 bills in the House Energy and Commerce Committee's kids package as of late 25, early 26 would directly mandate or create a national digital ID system, right? So I was like, okay, that's cool. But it does say, however, several bills could indirectly lead to widespread age verification requirements, which critics, including the EFF, ACLU, and Fight for the Future, argue would effectively function like a de facto digital ID by forcing users to submit sensitive personal information, which would be like a government ID, facial scans, or credit card data to access platforms. This is seen as a privacy risk and a step toward broader surveillance. So the key bills with age verification requirements are the App Store accountability. It requires app stores to verify users' ages and obtain parental consent for minors under 18, allowing app downloads or in-app purchases. It would transmit an age signal to apps. This federalizes state laws, right, in Utah, Texas, Louisiana, and could require ID uploads or other proofs, affecting millions of users. The Screen Act, it mandates age verification specifically for adult pornographic websites to block minors, building on state law upheld by the Supreme Court rulings. The Kids Online Safety Act, or KOSA, does not directly require age verification. However, it requires platforms to apply different safeguards rules for known minors, disabling addictive features. Critics argue this incentivizes broad age checks to avoid liability, potentially leading to ID based systems. Wow. Oh, and Harriet, thank you so much for joining us and reposting the stream. Only Facts. And Owen Knight, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Children and Teens Online Privacy Protection Act. This extends privacy rules to teens up to 17, but relies on existing COPA mechanisms, right? So no new broad digital ID mandate. Now there are other bills in the package: Reset Act, Safe Bots, Parental Overturns Act. They focus on parental tools and algorithm transparency or specific harms without age verification provisions. So in summary, while no bill establishes a centralized digital ID, the push for robust age assurance in app stores and certain sites could normalize ID submission for online access, raising privacy concerns. As of January 2026, the package advanced advanced out of subcommittee, but has not become law, with ongoing debates over First Amendment and privacy impacts, right? So it's the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment. Now, and I kept asking, are there any digital ID bills that have been introduced? Now it says yes. Several bills related to digital identity have been introduced in the current Congress, the 119th Congress, though none established a mandatory national digital ID system. So U.S. efforts focused on improving standards in operability, like mobile driver's licenses, fraud prevention, and privacy protections, often building on state level initiatives and existing frameworks like Real ID. Now, key bills were introduced in the 119th Congress, H.R. 1925, Emerging Digital Identity Ecosystem Report Act. Okay. Now, let's see. It was introduced in March of 2025 by Clay Higgins, a Republican out of Louisiana, and co-sponsored by Bill Foster, a Democrat from Illinois. It requires the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, to submit a report to Congress on the current state of digital identity ecosystems, their Homeland Security value, um, benefits, risk, and potential improvements. So this is a steady reporting bill, not one creating or mandating a digital ID system. Now, HR 3693, right, untitled in summaries, but prohibits federal biometric databases, explicitly prohibits the federal government from establishing or maintaining any database that contains data collected for biometric identity verification of U.S. citizens, fingerprints, facial recognition, iris scans. This is a restrictive bill aimed at limiting federal involvement in biometric digital identity systems. But you know what? I could see them saying, okay, we need to do something like this for non-citizens, and then they roll it out to everybody in the promise of safety. It could happen. So, related context for prior Congresses. Now, the most prominent reoccurring proposal is the Improving Digital Identity Act, and it was sponsored by Representative Bill Foster, of a Democrat from Illinois, and previously by Senator Kristen Sinema of Arizona and Cynthia Lumens, a Republican in Wyoming. Versions were introduced in prior Congresses, the 118th Congress and the 117th, 116th. It would create an interagency task force to improve secure, privacy focused digital identity verification. Wow. Provide grants to states and enhance federal systems without mandating a single national ID or central registry. So, as of January 26th, Representative Foster has expressed intent to reintroduce it in the 119th Congress, but no bill number has yet been assigned. Yeah, so they're not giving up on this. They're just doing it in a different way. So right now, no, legislation in the current Congress mandates a national ID. So nothing's happening on that front right now. But progress is incremental, with states leading on optional driver's licenses accepted by TSA in many cases, and federal focus on coordination, anti-fraud measures, and privacy safeguards. So I know I have a real ID. I live here in Georgia, and there are a lot of other states that have real ID. And I guess it's a situation where you can't go into certain buildings, like federal buildings or different things like that, or you can't travel to certain places if you don't have the real ID. And the thing about it is, you can refuse to have the real ID in Georgia. You can refuse it. I didn't think about it, and also it's like, oh, it just kind of happened because they did it, but they didn't give you a choice. But you do have a choice if you want to have it or not. So I know when my license expires next year, I'm going to have to pay a lot more attention because I also have a passport. So in some instances, I don't even have to use my my driver's license if I don't want to, as a form of identification. I can use my passport or my passport ID card. And that might be something that people want to start looking more into, to kind of, not even have to deal with the digital ID. And I don't know if they are looking at that or even considering that with individuals, because it's like there's always a workaround. Trust me, there's always a workaround. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to finish up on this part of the conversation going on just about digital IDs, the First Amendment, where we're really at with that. And then we're going to look at this latest regime change that happened in Venezuela and where we go from here. So thanks so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we will see you on the other side.
At all sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it?
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. We will be airing live from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern for the next 20 days. And so thank you so much for joining me here. And as you can see, I've got the headline going, top Venezuelan storylines. Maduro charged in the U.S. to run country and diaspora abroad celebrate. So this just happened over the weekend. Happy New Year, right? What is going on? And so after the U.S. captured Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro on Saturday, news has moved fast on what could come next. Here are some of the top storylines and how media across the spectrum have covered them. So, for the criminal charges, on Saturday, Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were charged with narco terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine importation, conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns, destructive devices. Now, future governance. During his Saturday press conference, President Trump said the U.S. will run Venezuela until a safe, proper, and judicious translation can take place. Of the current opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, who won a Nobel Prize in October, Trump said she is a very nice woman, but doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country to successfully lead it, right? So with regime changes, they usually have someone kind of in position that will take it over, right? And I don't want to call them a puppet, but that's kind of what they are until they can stand on their own 2 feet. Because if you're positioning somebody and placing them there and the people haven't voted for this person, yeah, that's weird. I would really like it if they just had an election for Venezuela and allowed people to vote for the person that they want to run their country, right? And hopefully they would have a free and fair election. But it looks like they're just going to position somebody there to kind of still keep a lever of control over their country, which is weird. A lot of this is very interesting that's happening. So for the oil, Trump said American oil companies will fix Venezuela's broken infrastructure and start making money for the country. The New York Times, that leans left, that according to Oil and Gas Journal, Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves by a significant margin of 303 billion barrels. An analysis from Fox News on the right noted obstacles and extracting Venezuelan oil and said the possibility of capitalizing on it now hinges on critical change and whether years of under investment, decaying infrastructure, and technical challenges can be reversed. Of course, my little light here decided it's going to kick out. It's so weird when it turns off like that. It might turn off again. Hopefully it won't. So that's interesting. Now the diaspora celebrate. So outlets across the spectrum, such as the Associated Press on the left, CNN, Reuters and Fox News reported that Venezuelans living abroad publicly celebrated Maduro's capture on Saturday. Reuters interviewed several Venezuelans who were skeptical of the nation's future. However, the publication wrote after the initial joy, doubts about Venezuela's future also set in as Venezuelans abroad wondered what the future would hold for their country as its citizens. The BBC that center wrote in its headline that Venezuela met the news with hope and worry. Now, politicians have reacted as well. Just the News that leans right highlighted that some congressional Florida Republicans celebrated the news. Al Jazeera, which leans left, the split between Democrat and Republican lawmakers, writing Democratic lawmakers largely condemned the operation, and Republican Representative Thomas Massey criticized the operation for lacking legitimacy or proper authorization. Now, here's the thing, we do this stuff all the time. Regime change is nothing new if you are an American citizen. It's nothing new. And I really need people to stop acting brand new about it. You sound silly when you do things like this. And I'm gonna bring it up because I was like, can you outline all regime changes in the United States that the United States has been involved in, right? Since the Obama administration in particular, right? And I said, can you also summarize the authority the president has and the involvement of Congress? So it gave me a breakdown. So the Barack Obama administration began 2009. These include military interventions, support for opposition groups like and diplomatic pressures, often justified under national security or humanitarian pretext. Not all attempts succeeded in fully overthrowing governments, and involvement varied in scale. Below is an outline based on historical records focusing on key instances where U.S. actions played a significant or divisive role. This list draws from documented interventions and does not include purely diplomatic efforts or indirect influences without substantial U.S. backing. So we have Honduras in 2009. The U.S. supported a military coup and ousted President Manuel Zayala, a left leaning leader aligned with Venezuela influence. Wow, interesting. The Obama administration initially condemned the coup, but later recognized the new government after elections, providing aid and blocking Zayala's return. Okay, so no interference there, right? This effectively facilitated the regime change, leading to a new conservative administration under Porfirio Lobo. Okay, now we have Libya in 2011. Obama's still in office. Okay, he's there, still in office. He's there till 2016. Okay, so as part of NATO-led coalition, the U.S. conducted airstrikes and provided logistical support to rebels during the Arab Spring uprising against Muammar Gaddafi. The intervention, authorized by a UN Security Council resolution for civilian protection, escalated into regime change, resulting in Gaddafi's overthrow and death. The country descended into chaos afterward, with Obama later calling the lack of post intervention planning his presidency's worst mistake. So they went in and had no plan really of what they were doing. Okay, Syria, 2011. And this is still ongoing in Syria. Okay. The U.S. supported rebel groups, including through arms training and airstrikes in efforts to oust President Bashar al Assad amid the civil war. This included operations against ISIS, but also broader anti regime activities. Despite significant involvement under Obama, Trump and Biden administrations, Assad remained in power, with U.S. actions contributing to prolonged conflict rather than a full regime change. Russia and Iran's support for Assad complicated U.S. goals. Okay, Yemen, 2014, and it's still ongoing. The U.S. provided intelligence, arms, and logistical support to Syad led coalition intervening against Houthi rebels who ousted President Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi. While not a direct US led regime change, American involvement aimed to restore Hadi's government and counter Iranian influence, effectively participating in efforts to reverse the Houthi takeover. This continued across administrations, with Biden later scaling back some support. Afghanistan in 2021. Now, because Yemen is ongoing, it's still going. Okay, so it hasn't ended. Now, Afghanistan happened in 2021. U.S. withdrawal under President Biden led to the collapse of the Afghan government and the Taliban rapid return to power. While the initial regime change occurred in 2001, okay, so that was even pre Obama, overthrowing the Taliban, the 2021 events reversed US backed governance, making an indirect regime change facilitated by the end of American military presence. Now we get up to Donald Trump. And this year, US President Donald Trump, US conducted a military raid aimed at regime change against Nicolas Maduro's government, citing drug trafficking and dictatorship. This operation, carried out without congressional authorization, has been criticized as unlawful and lacking a post intervention plan, potentially destabilizing the region. It fits a pattern of U.S. economic sanctions and support for opposition figures like Juan Guaido in prior years. So, other potential cases, such as U.S. support during the Arab Spring in Egypt in 2011 or Ukraine in 2014, involved indirect influence but did not rise to the level of the decisive regime change efforts led by the U.S. interventions in Iraq post 2014 against ISIS, focused on stabilizing the existing government rather than overthrowing it. Overall, U.S. involvement in regime changes has decreased since the Cold War, but persists in select cases, often with mixed outcomes like instability or failure to achieve long term goals. So, the summary of presidential authority and congressional involvement. The U.S. Constitution divides war powers between the president and Congress to prevent unilateral actions. Under Article 2, the president serves as commander in chief, granting broad authority to direct military operations, including defensive actions to repel attacks or protect national security without prior congressional approval. This includes initiating limited interventions if deemed necessary, as seen in historical precedents where presidents have acted independently in response to immediate threats or for counterterrorism. However, Article 1 empowers Congress to declare war, authorize use of military force, raise and fund armies, or regulate the armed forces. Congress must approve prolonged or large scale conflicts, and it can override presidential vetoes or use funding cuts to constrain actions. The 1973 War Powers Resolution further limits the president by requiring notification to Congress within 48 hours of committing forces and mandating withdrawal after 60 days, plus 30 for withdrawal, unless Congress authorizes continuation or declares war. Presidents from both parties have often challenged or bypassed this. Okay. Arguing it unconstitutionally restricts executive power, leading to debates over interventions like Libya in 2011 and Venezuela in 2026. In practice, presidents have expanded their unilateral authority since World War II, often in initiating regime changes or interventions without formal declarations of Congress, while Congress provides oversight through AUMFs, right? And that would be post 9/11 authorizations used for broader actions or resolutions to block funding. This balance aims to ensure accountability, but has led to ongoing tensions, with critics arguing recent actions erode congressional roles. So I asked a follow-up question. I said, with Libya, it was rumored that Gaddafi wanted to liberate his people and set them up financially. Is there any proof? So the rumor that I was talking about, it stems from two related but distinct aspects of Muammar Gaddafi's policies and proposals during his rule. He first plans to distribute Libya's oil revenues directly to citizens to combat corruption and improve their financial well being. And two, advocacy for a pan African gold backing currency, the gold dinar. So he didn't want fiat currency, he wanted, you know, gold backed. So it aimed at reducing Western financial influence over African nations. So he was trying to separate himself, including Libya. While these ideas were publicly proposed and discussed, they were never fully implemented, and evidence for them being Gaddafi's primary motivation for liberating or setting up Libyans financially is mixed, supported by his speeches, media reports, and leaked documents, but criticized as unfeasible or exaggerated in hindsight. Hmm. But they killed him. Interesting. He wanted to do this, and they were like, no. So Gaddafi repeatedly proposed bypassing government bureaucracy to hand oil profits directly to Libya's people, framing it as a way to eliminate corruption, empower citizens, and ensure equitable wealth sharing. This aligns closely with the idea of setting them up financially, right? As as it involved cash payouts that could have provided significant economic security. So in 2008, during his speech marking 39 years in power, Gaddafi announced plans for sweeping reforms, including privatizing oil revenues and distributing them directly to citizens. He stated that state bodies were prone to corruption, and that as long as money is administered by a government body, there would be theft and corruption. He urged Libyans to be ready for the changes, which would start within 4 months, and emphasized putting money in your pockets for needs like education. So it wasn't just a talking point, he was going to do this. And in August, he accused officials of looting oil wealth and called for direct payouts to be Libya's payouts to Libya's 5 million people, with implementation slated for early 2009. He argued this would end corruption linked to bureaucracy. By February 2009, Gaddafi estimated the annual distribution at 32 billion, about 23,000 to 30,000 per person for the poorest 1 million Libyans, and pushed for support from Libya's basic people's congresses, saying the state economy had failed and citizens should decide how to use the funds. A national vote that year delayed implementation, with most Congresses endorsing the idea but requesting more preparation. Only a minority favored immediate rollout. Gaddafi's described this as his dream to give power and wealth directly to the people, abolishing most ministries except defense, secretary, and foreign affairs to protect the budget from graft. He acknowledged potential short term chaos, but saw it as a path to prosperity for future generations. So crazy. The plan faced opposition from senior officials, including the prime minister and central bank governor, who warned of inflation, capital flight, and economic havoc. It was postponed in 2009 and never fully enacted before Gaddafi's overthrow in 2011. While not realized, the proposals built on Libya's existing social welfare under Gaddafi, such as free education, health care, housing subsidies, and marriage grants 50,000 for newlyweds, while some sources cite as evidence of his intent to financially uplift Libyans. However, leaked Gaddafi era documents later revealed widespread corruption in oil management, including missing funds and undervalued assets, undermining claims of pure altruistic motives. So it goes on into the Pan African currency. But I said, so from the regime changes listed, did any lead to the development of terrorist organization? So regime changes linked to terrorist organizations. So for Libya, the US-backed NATO intervention and overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi created a power vacuum, leading to widespread chaos and the rise of jihadist groups. This included the expansion of ISIS in Libya, Al Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, and other militias that exploited the instability for recruitment and territorial control. The lack of post regime planning exacerbated factional fighting, turning Libya into a breeding ground for terrorism. Now, in Syria, kind of the same thing. The U.S. support for anti Assad rebels amid the civil war contributed to prolonged conflict, which facilitated, right, the rise of terrorist groups like ISIS. So crazy. And the power vacuum and sectarian division allowed these organizations to establish caliphates, conduct attacks, and attract foreign fighters, with ISIS becoming a global threat before its territorial defeat. In Yemen, which is still ongoing, U.S. backing of Syad-led coalition against Houthi rebels, right, intensified the war, creating safe havens for groups like Al Qaeda and Arabian Peninsula and ISIS affiliates. The conflict's chaos allowed these organizations to expand operations, conduct attacks, and exploit ungoverned spaces, with AQAP becoming one of the most active Al Qaeda branches globally. Afghanistan, the U.S. resolved withdrawal of subsequent collapse of the Afghan government enabled the Taliban return to power, a group designated as a terrorist organization by many countries, though not formally by the US. The regime change strengthened the Taliban and allowed affiliates like Al Qaeda and ISIS to regroup, with ISIS K conducting attacks and expanding recruitment amid the instability. So, overall, these cases highlight a pattern where U.S. involvement regime changes, while amid a countering threats, often lead to unintended consequences like increased terrorism due to governance failures and regional rivalries. Sources from think tanks, academic studies, and government report emphasize that while direct causation is debated, the interventions played a contributory role in fostering environments conducive with extremist growth. And I'm really hoping that doesn't happen with Venezuela, because I actually said, do you think it could end up the same way? It says, yes, there's a significant risk that Venezuela could end up facing similar challenges as Libya, Syria, Yemen, or Afghanistan following the US led regime change on January 3rd, 2026, namely increased instability that fosters or strengthens terrorist organization. While it's too early to predict outcomes definitively, historical patterns from comparable interventions suggest a power vacuum could exacerbate existing threats from narco terrorist groups, guerrillas, and militias. Okay. I'm not going to read through all of it. I will definitely link it. But there is the potential for this to kind of backfire. It's like on the one hand, when they do these regime changes, I understand they're trying to get like this immediate help going, but it's the fallout. What's going to happen after the fact? What is going to happen afterwards? And we'll just have to see. We really will. We'll have to see what happens. So, short term instability with Maduro gone, infighting among loyalists could create ungoverned spaces for terrorists, as seen in Yemen, where AQAP thrived amid civil war. Economic collapse worsened by lost subsidies to allies like Cuba might fuel recruitment. So yeah, and Grok says in a review, without a robust post-operation plan, which Obama regretted lacking in Libya, Venezuela has a high chance of descending into a similar turmoil. Regime changes often prioritize removal over reconstruction, breeding extremism. That said, if the U.S. leverages Venezuela's resources for rapid stabilization, it could buck the trend, though history isn't optimistic. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this respect. I don't want to see, us be fallen to anything, right? I don't want to see anything bad happen to us, but we've decided as a country, or at least our president has decided, we're doing this. We're moving forward full steam ahead. And at the same time, it's like, was this the best pathway forward right now? And I'm really hoping that they do have a plan in place. Now, I'm not going to play all this video. I'm going to play it very shortly. This is another video by Melanie King, and this one's recent. This was in the past day or two, actually past few hours, and it's talking about the voting machines in Venezuela.
Reckoning is coming, guys. Going back to the 2020 election. Now, I'm going to play this clip in a second to refresh your memory what Sidney Powell was talking about, but I have some other things to show you guys. There's so many videos coming out now connected to Venezuela, Dominion voting machines, and how the 2020 election was essentially rigged, stolen. I've gone over some of it before in the past, but now with this coming out, and even President Trump has tweeted out a video about this specifically. I think this is the time to reinvestigate this, and that indicates that that is what they're getting ready to do. But just to remind you quickly, and then I'll show you something else, and we'll come back to this in a second. But it says, I can hardly wait to present all the evidence we've collected on Dominion. It was created to produce and alter voting results in Venezuela for Hugo Chavez, who he preceded Maduro, right? And then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries, including this one. Let me show you this, because we gotta, there's a lot, like I said, so we just gotta sift through it all. But this says here, Biden visited Serbia in May of 2009 to personally recruit computer hackers to control future Dominion software in the elections. Now, this is coming from former U.S. Army officer Scott Bennett of counterterrorism analyst.
That Biden visited Serbia in May of 2009 to personally recruit computer hackers there to control future Dominion software design. On Dominion's website, Serbia is marked as the location of the company's branch. It is significant to note that Scott Bennett worked as a counterterrorism threat finance analyst, as well as was the liaison officer to the State Department coordinator for counterterrorism under Ambassador Del Daly, former general of Joint Special Operations Command. So in my capacity as working for General Daly at the State Department Counterterrorism Office, I interfaced with some of the activities that were going on in 2009 with regards to UPS securities and some of these terrorist activities that we were tracking at the State Department and at Special Operations Command and at the Joint Military Information Support Command. Coincidentally, when Dominion became the global focus after the general election, more than 100 Dominion employees, who accounted for 1/3 of the total number of employees, deleted their records on LinkedIn, including Serbian employees. On July 16, 2018, Dominion issued a press release announcing that Staple Street Capital in New York and the management team of Dominion had acquired Dominion. The media briefing described Staple Street Capital as a medium-sized private equity firm. Soon after the general election on November 3rd, Staple Street Capital's website almost changed its face immediately. All the information about the company's founder and the company's investment portfolio was deleted.
Yes, guys. Yes. Okay, now let's take a look at this. It says, Smartmatic and Dominion voting machines have been accused of manipulating elections as far back as 2006 or earlier. Today, we have the proof and to end election fraud once and for all, not just in the U.S., but around the world. Every country must demand election integrity.
Antonio Mujica and his partner Alfredo Anzola received a small business loan from the Venezuelan government only months before the recall election. These corporate registration documents from Venezuela show the Venezuelan government owned 28% of the stock of another company they started, Bizta, which adapted voting software for the Smartmatic machines in the 2004 elections. The same document shows a Chavez government minister, Omar Montillo, was on the board of directors. The Chavez government gave Bizta, Smartmatic, and another company a $91 million contract to run voting machines for the 2004 election. The next year, the owners of Smartmatic, primarily owned by Venezuelan businessmen, bought Sequoia, one of the top electronic voting system companies in the United States, for $16 million. Smartmatic is a labyrinth of international holding companies owned by Venezuelan businessmen. Smartmatic Group NV of Curaçao, Netherlands, Antilles owns Smartmatic International BV of Amsterdam, Netherlands, owns Smartmatic Corporation of Florida, which bought Sequoia Voting Systems of California, USA. When Smartmatic bought the U.S. voting machine companies, the U.S. government did not review the sale. Many experts say those voting machines were manipulated in Venezuela to give President Hugo Chavez a victory. Exit polls done by the U.S. firm Penn, Schoen & Berland had Chavez losing 41% to 59%. But the next day, Chavez declared victory, reversing the score, saying he won 59% of the vote.
Everything was computed in the favor of the government. So the only explanation is that the Smartmatic machines had been programmed in that way.
A Harvard mathematician crunched the numbers on the Venezuelan election.
It had to be the Smartmatic system. All these machines talk to a central computer and report on their results. And in that mechanism, as they communicate with the central machine can report anything.
Smartmatic is technically based in Boca Raton, Florida, but the president of the company, Jack Blaine, testified to the Chicago City Council. Fewer than a dozen Smartmatic employees work in Florida. The majority of the workers are based in Venezuela.
Yeah.
And we know that they are under the dictator rule. These aren't like the regular Venezuela.
So, yeah. Now, of course, her video kind of follows up what just happened in Venezuela. So this is going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out. Hey, Dukester, good morning to you. It's going to be very fascinating to see how this all plays out, because right now we're in the middle of a regime change with Venezuela. I just read for you what could happen if a power vacuum is created. Not only that, they're dealing with these Smartmatic machines that are everywhere. So this, like I said, this is going to be interesting to see who they put into a place of power, if they're going to allow the people to actually have an election. And when I say allow, because right now, the United States is, intermediary governing Venezuela, because you took out the leadership. This is a whole thing. So, I will get into more of that news as fitting, right? But I wanted to give you guys some historical background on regime changes, how they happen, where they come from, and what we can expect. I'll also make sure to add the link for the Take It Down Act that was recently passed in May of this year, along, with the breakdown of the other bills that are going to be passed in Congress that may affect our freedom of speech. So I'm really grateful to be here in the new year. Hopefully my voice will sound better tomorrow than it does today. But hey, thank you guys again for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you tomorrow.